And now, right to your hosts of Down the Garden Path, Joanne Shaw and Matthew Dressing.
Welcome to Down the Garden Path, where we discuss down-to-earth tips and advice while doing our best to help you seasonally manage your garden and landscape. I'm Joanne Shaw, owner of Down to Earth Landscape Design, and with me is my co-host and co-author, Matthew Dressing. Hello, Matt.
Hello, Joanne, and good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Matthew Dressing, owner of Natural Affinity Garden Design. As landscape designers and gardeners, we believe it's important and possible to have great gardens, which are sustainable and low maintenance, and we want to help you make it happen.
That's right. And plants are more than just pretty to look at. Many have unique uses and fragrances. Tonight on the show, we are joined by New York City's Aromatica, oh my goodness, Amy, Anthony, to learn about growing aromatic plants and essential oils and how you can make them a dynamic part of your garden and landscape. So if you have a question for Amy about aromatic plants, her products, or podcast, we'd love for you to share them with us by writing us at downthegardenpathpodcast@hotmail.com.
And just a little bit about Amy before she joins. Amy is a certified clinical aromatherapist and aromatic gardener who left her career in marketing research to pursue what is closest to her heart, working with plants. As a certified aromatherapist, aromatherapy educator, herbalist, gardener, certified master composter, and artisanal distiller, Amy is one of NYC's top aromatherapy practitioners. Host of the Essential Aromatica podcast, Amy also tends her own aromatic garden on the Norfolk of Long Island, where she distills her unique products. Listed as one of America's most influential aromatherapists, Amy Anthony is currently the New York State representative for the Alliance of International Aromatherapists and has her private practice called NYC Aromatica, which includes a one-on-one customized aromatherapy sessions, online class offerings, corporate consulting, and article writing. Welcome to the show, Amy.
Wow, thank you. It's a mouthful.
Yeah. Welcome to the show. I know we always look back and go, was that really you talking about me? No, we're so happy to have you. And after all the years of doing this podcast and garden radio show, we've never had this topic. So I'm very excited.
Oh, yay. I'm excited to be here. This is so awesome. Thank you.
So is there anything else that we missed that you want to share about NYC Aromatica before we jump into our questions?
Well, not really, because believe it or not, I don't love talking about myself, but can I share? I did something really cool this weekend that you might find really awesome. I love having Vitex. So I have a property out on the North Fork of Long Island, as mentioned, with my wonderful husband. So I spend time between Long Island, New York, and Manhattan, New York. And we have several Vitex trees growing on our property, and they are very aromatic and they have very lovely medicinal qualities. So this time of year is when I get to harvest the berries and distill them to obtain their gorgeous hydrosol, which I then incorporate into creams and sprays and other qualities to help with hormone balancing. But that's a loaded topic.
Yeah, but that's a whole other show.
I know. I know, but it was so exciting. You should have smelled my back room with just the vapors of Vitex agnus castus, her berries just perfuming the air. It was heady.
Excellent. So I'm not familiar with Vitex, but I just Googled it. So it's a chaste tree. Excellent.
Yes.
Different.
Yeah, and I'm in zone 7A, if I'm correct. Yeah, I'm in zone 7A, and I know Toronto, I forget what your zone is, but I think Vitex would grow nicely up in your parts.
Yeah, we're a zone 5B, 6A, depending on where you are in the GTA along the lake, the Great Lake.
Yep.
Yeah. So you mentioned hydrosol, was it?
Yeah.
Or yeah, okay, and then and all these beautiful berries and plants and stuff that are giving that beautiful scent. So just for our listeners, starting at the beginning, so what defines a plant as aromatic? So what is an aromatic plant really?
That's
Yeah, go ahead.
I say it's a really cool question because I've had to think about this sometimes because we define aromatic plants in my world of aromatherapy as them having the volatile oils. And then you think about that because all plants have some kind of aroma, but like tomato, we don't distill that and obtain its oil. I do get tomato seed oil. That's a really nice topical oil, like a olive oil type. But when we talk about aromatics, they're the things that you can crush and smell, and they're so volatile that that's their quality. They go in the air and they're amazingly fragrant. And there's a fine line with aromatherapy. Flowers have a lot of fragrance, but we can't capture their essential oil through the distillation process. So it's this, literally you have to be this volatile oil that can withstand the pressure and heat of distillation. I mean, that's,
that is interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's so specific, when I think about it, because like I said, there's so many plants that have an aroma, like heliotrope. I have planted outside of my front door so I can get the aromas.
Really?
We can't get the essential oil from that because those plants can't hold up to that process of being distilled.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so we can't capture the flower scent, for example. So do the essential oils, do they only come from other parts other than the flower, or can the flower be involved, or?
That's a great question. So the whole thing about aromatic plants as related to aromatherapy, because we work with the essential oils or the volatile oils we obtain from distillation, from steam distillation. The flowers are so delicate. Those chemical components are so delicate, they get destroyed in the process. So there's very few flowers we can distill, like Ylang is one, rose, of course, but there's a chemistry there where they're so water soluble too that they just don't want to come over in that distillation process. But what we could do is work and do like create a herbal maceration, or take like heliotrope and maybe put that in an oil like sunflower and try to eke out some of the aroma that way.
Okay.
So there's this like chemistry part of aromatherapy that you could totally geek out on.
Yeah. So are you looking for plants? So does it tend to then be plants and more of their foliage that helps you with that oil versus the flower?
Yes.
Or yes. Okay.
Thanks for bringing me that back on track, because Matthew, you did ask that, and thanks, Joanne. So essential oils can often be found, and I have some cast of characters here that we would be growing in our respective zones. Monarda, we get it actually from, the flowers are so delicate, but when you touch Monarda, you get those oil glands on the stem and on the leaves.
Okay.
Lovage root. I had lovage growing this June and May, and so tall.
Oh my gosh,
we take the root and
Really?
distill that.
Okay.
Chamomile. I said the flowers. I lied. That's another flower. You could take Roman chamomile or German chamomile and just take that beautiful little head off. It's very time consuming, and we can get that. And we save those for tea. Rosemary, the leaf. Geranium, the leaf. Goldenrod. I just lied to you so badly. Goldenrod, we take the flowers. Goldenrod is such a gorgeous aromatic that I think we neglect. We think it's so common. Yeah. It's a gorgeous plant I find it to be really helpful for calming the nervous system and the solar plexus. See, I could talk about this forever.
Oh, that is great. That is great. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
But
goldenrod, because I don't think I've ever seen that. Yeah. And I don't think think of goldenrod as fragrant either. I think of it as a pollinator. I think of it as a late summer plant that, more people should put in the garden. And we're constantly having to tell people it's not making you sneeze. That's ragweed. And, all of that stuff is what we talk about with goldenrod. But I didn't realize that it was fragrant.
Yes, it's very subtle, and it has qualities similar to like that late summer hazy, lazy sun. And it's It has an affinity for the, I'd say the solar plexus, but also the urinary tract when taken as a tea. But this is the cool thing, like calendula is an aromatic as well. And we could distill that, but see, it's fine lines here, but definitely one of our native aromatics is goldenrod. And just, of course you champion people to have goldenrod in the garden.
Yeah.
Yay.
Mm-hmm.
But really subtle, like when you go and crush those flowers, you'll get kind of the resin, and you'll get that subtle aroma. So if I was to share with you right now with smell-o-vision,
Right.
it's very subtle and very calming and very soothing.
Okay.
Very
Excellent.
nice.
So do you think that those are the types of plants that we should encourage people to have in their garden, just for if you're working in your garden? Will they be able to smell those, or? Yeah.
Yes, definitely. So I just mentioned I have clary sage here, which is absolutely lovely. And yeah, like just enjoying the plant for who it is, but like the Vitex agnus castus, you can go and you even cut the branch, you smell it, you rub the leaf, you smell it. Rosemary, I just like to run my hands along a plant and then smell my hand.
Mm-hmm.
The Monarda, you could go, again, I'm hot on native plants. I'm trying to like get more and more native plants, but you touch the Monarda leaf, you can make a tea out of the leaf and the stem, but you can have a beautiful aromatic experience that way. And there's so many more we could talk about.
Well, yeah.
Queen Anne's lace,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was going to be my next question. So just so many plants to talk about. What are some of the best, do you think, if we were going to, get our listeners into aromatic gardening? What maybe are your top 3 recommendations?
Okay, so my way of answering that question is, one thing about me being an aromatherapist is I need to know how the plants grow. What conditions do they like? How much neglect do they like? Not too lean soil. And I want to understand the plant. But a lot of my adventures has to do with living with deer and groundhogs and rabbits. And, a lot of those guys don't want to say hello to lavender. They don't want to say hello to oregano, marjoram. Someone I love is Santolina, green gray Santolina, which we can get the essential oil from.
Okay.
Rosemary, they leave them alone. So a lot of, oh my gosh, you should have seen my fennel plants this year. I just had to tame some of them. I just let them go to high heaven, and they were at least 6 feet tall.
Beautiful.
And guess who wasn't touching them?
Yeah.
So a lot of it is out of necessity, because those critters eat all the good stuff, right? And germander is another one that I love that's not worked with in aromatherapy, but nobody touches germander, and it's just such a nice plant.
Oh, that's interesting.
Why don't people touch the germander for?
The animals, sorry, the critters. They just.
Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, the critters just, and when I accidentally like lick my hand or do something, or like touch my mouth when I'm trimming germander, it's just bitter. And you'll notice a lot of the aromatics, it's the smell that keeps critters away, but also there's bitterness to several, like in the aster family. But yeah, it's been a cool journey just seeing what these guys don't like to eat. And then me as an aromatherapist, I need to know who these guys are. What do they like? Where are they from? Can I ask you to live here? Or are you going to be miserable?
Yeah. We often, because that's a popular question on the show about, and even with our clients, about rabbits and deer eating. And so we've learned that furry and fragrant are, so things like catmint and lamb's ear and like things that are very fragrant, are one thing. And then anything that's got like a texture to it, they also don't want any part of. So you would probably have a great, encyclopedia. And I know that's common in New York as well, deer.
Yes. Yeah. We have because we're so overpopulated on Long Island, just one house after house, and the deer have nowhere to go, and there's no natural predators anymore.
Right.
If there ever were.
Mm-hmm.
It's so sad. Poor deer. Yeah.
I know everybody's
Oh, dear.
hosta. So, they're eating the hosta, but they're leaving all of your fragrant plants alone.
Yes.
So for any of our listeners who may have an issue with deer, then this is a different purpose for the show, but they're, considering aromatic plants. And I think even if they are interspersed with some of your other showier plants, they can help discourage deer and rabbits, right?
Yeah. Like, for instance, that wall, if I could send you a picture of the fennel, it's like you can make an aromatic wall of stuff to then maybe have your other stuff behind it, depending on how crafty you can be.
Yes. And how much space you have to garden, but
yes,
but certainly, I mean, I think herbal gardening with herbs has been huge, in the pandemic as well, because they tend to be a little bit easier and a little bit more readily available, and I think their fragrance and uses, they're a practical thing to grow, really.
Yeah. And there's someone else I want to share, Melissa, or lemon balm. Like, she's a weed. You plant one plant, she just keeps coming back year after year. And that's someone that is beautiful as a tea. Like, a lot of the aromatics are great for digestion, including goldenrod, and working with the nervous system. So calm stomach, calm mind, like chamomile. Melissa's known to be really great for working with the anxious mind, taken, consistently as a tea. So I just wanted to bring up Melissa.
Yeah, no, that's great. I didn't know that was Melissa's botanical name, Matt. I was like, who's Melissa?
Oh, yeah. Lemon balm. She's so fun. Yeah.
Now, lemon balm's a bit like mint in that it can kind of take over.
Yeah. She's bossy.
That's a good way to put it. That's bossy. So and will they, have you done, do you do any of the planting in containers?
Ooh, yes. Over the years, yes.
Okay.
And I try to go in the ground. For years, we did put a little fenced in area so I can have absolute protection from deer and rabbits. But I do currently have rosemary for a few years in 2 pots. I have 2 bay laurel trees. They're tiny, that I bring into the garage. I have a dwarf myrtle tree, little, so not like Myrtus communis. So tiny leaves. And who else is in a pot currently? Oh, of course I have sage in a pot, and I have some oregano in a pot.
And how about some of the mints, which they pretty much thrive fine, right?
Yeah, I did have spearmint in a pot, and then because I thought you would know this, I'm getting, I think, thripes, or these little white guys. I think they're called thripes. I could be wrong. My spearmint was flagging, of course, during the hot summer, and then I had to cut it back. But of course, it came back in the fall. Like, a lot of the plants will flag a little bit in that July heat. Okay. But I was growing spearmint to contain because the mints can be bossy.
Yes.
Very much so.
Very.
I don't like to say aggressive. I like to say bossy.
It is nicer to say it that way. That is true.
We might just have to steal that from you.
Yes.
Please do.
Sorry, I was stuck on the thrips there for a second, for sure. Were they flying, or were they little lines, or were they moving, or?
These little white guys, they would just be they're tiny little white insects. You could tell they were like little insects in white. And I maybe thripe is not the right word, but I was sad that my spearmint was getting a little devoured, but okay. That's just, I learned, I got some great advice down the road of, always put your mints in pots. And if you accidentally plant it in the ground, just be careful, you'll be maintaining that patch for your whole life.
That's right. Yeah.
So you are an avid gardener. You were sharing with us your enjoyment of gardening. Tell us some of the stories, or some of the ways that you've used, or more ways that you've used your aromatic plants into your garden. Is it very structured? Is it mixed in with ornamentals? Is it very kind of like I almost want to say very farmish in the way that you're just, you've got planted of rose. Like, what experience and tips might you have there?
Oh, that's a question where I have to confess. So I love reading the magazine Fine Gardening. And I think one of the editors at one time was like, I'm the accidental gardener. It's like, oh, there's a bare space. Who can fit in there? I'm like, what's the season? Who's available? Who can I tuck in there? So I find I have great ideas, but then you'll see someone shows up because a lot of these aromatics are volunteers. Like they come back the next year, several of them. So it's like, oh, look who showed up there. Well, I can't pull you out. So it's just like I planted Verbena bonariensis. Am I saying that right? And years ago, I just keep getting it every year. Cleome, once you plant Cleome, just keeps coming back. So I'm kind of the accidental, the laid back gardener. So I don't do farming. Okay. I might have a plan, but someone comes in, someone takes over. I'm still learning. So it's haphazard, but you try to plan.
Yes.
Now, are you growing for your own essential oils or?
That, no, because it takes so much plant material. It's a great question. Like it takes at least, if not more, 250 pounds of flowering lavender tops to obtain a pound of oil. So I like to grow for observation. Often I won't cut back. So if I see the pollinators are super happy, I just let it be, no pun intended. I'll harvest for tea. And then I do harvest to obtain a hydrosol. So I generally will collect about a pound of plant material to 2 pounds. And that's all I need to get my hydrosols for the year.
So what does the hydrosols do as far as aromatherapy? What is this chemical or compound?
So when we distill, we put, the plant material into the retort or the chamber. We put it under pressure. We could inject steam in for a more advanced still. I just have water sitting in mine. And then the magic happens and overcomes through the whole distillation process, your oil, and then that steam that turns back to water. So any of that chemistry that carried over the distillation process and got condensed and cooled down, we get like the greatest example I love is rose water.
Oh,
you might see that in culinary stores, facial toners. So rose, that's where we get it from. Rose water, exactly, is part of the distillation process. So the hydrosols used to be included in pharmacopoeias in pharmacy, like up into the 1940s here in the United States, like lemon balm water, rose water. There's it's a lost art we forgot. We're kind of reclaiming. And I think it's the aromatherapists globally bringing this back. So the hydrosols are very dilute. They have, you can't say homeopathic, but they have dilute amounts of the more water-loving components that come over. So the oils stay as their oils, but then the components that kind of like water a little bit will come over. And you'll find that the hydrosols, I've done hydrosol tastings with students and other people several times of goldenrod. Many people will say they feel stoned.
Really?
With literally taking a cup of water, like 4 ounces, 6 ounces, you do 1, 2, 3 sprays of goldenrod. That's it. You sip on it. You do that for like 3 minutes and sip, and you just notice what happens.
No.
It's cool. It's powerful. It's subtle. And it blows your mind. It's like,
oh, wow. It sounds like literally. I don't know, Gary, do we need a warning on the show? No, I'm just kidding.
No, but no. That's very interesting because, I'm not 100% sure if Amy realizes that cannabis is legal here. And this may be an alternative for a lot of people, saving some money. So there you go.
Well, I was being really honest and liberal there, but it's not like you feel stoned. You feel like really like chill and sedative, and like you want to like just chill out. And that's like goldenrod is that late summer, hazy, lazy, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not encouraging people to do this. Like, please, you have to go to a reputable person. But the hydrosols we're rediscovering again, and you could incorporate them into cooking food, cocktails, beauty, wellness care preparations like facial creams and stuff.
Ah, okay. That kind of ties in with Steve's question. He says, hello, Matt and Joanne. Let's cut to the chase. What aromatic essential oil will help me sleep? Help. So if we go from relaxing, and so I thought, well, that's kind of a little bit of a segue.
Yeah. So some of the classics we can grow in our gardens, depending. I don't know about your area if lavender does well. True lavender. I have problems on Long Island because it's so humid. But lavender, Roman chamomile, it grows low on the ground. It'll help you go to sleep. Yeah, it's like when you look at the way the plant grows, it really helps you. But those are the two classics for sleep enhancement. Valerian root, which many people don't like the smell of, is very powerful. So you could even think of collecting the Roman chamomile in your garden and lavender tops and making a pillow, like a sachet, and putting it on your pillow. If you decide to go and buy some, please, a dream pillow, you could buy some lovely essential oils, and all you need, you could have like a sleep mist made or something, but 1 drop of lavender oil and 1 drop of Roman chamomile on a cotton pad, and you put that on your chest or on your pillow, that will help you settle into sleep. It should. It might not work for everybody.
Right.
But I've had great success. And I'm really stressing this with essential oils. When you have that little bottle, 1 drop is really all you need. There's many things. You could become irritated if you have too much. It becomes so darn overwhelming. I'd really like to swear there, but I won't. Like, you only need a tiny, tiny bit.
Okay.
And they're expensive. They're so expensive.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I find lavender very overpowering. There was a booth recently at a flower market that Matt and I were at, and I couldn't like go near the booth, like, so I could see that. So there's some people that do get migraines from fragrance and things like that. My mother's very sensitive to fragrance. So you think it's just too much, and just going lightly is better.
Yeah, less is more is a mantra that any good aromatherapist should be sharing. Yeah. But there's another one I want to share that we consider a weed that I've been really exploring, is mugwort, that we consider a weed. And I've had repeated success myself, my other people, for dream work. If you want to enhance your dream recall, you could harvest the plant, the leaves, and maybe make a sleep pillow, like I said. Or maybe if you want to work with lucid dreaming and dream heightening, dream recall, you can think of incorporating, again, this is olfaction, 1 drop of mugwort. We're not taking it internally. We're not putting it on your body yet. We have to dilute to do that. But we could work with olfaction, with smell, and those molecules get into your system and they work with you. So mugwort's another one to consider, even again as an herbal preparation.
Okay.
Very cool. Well, as we reach the bottom of the hour, I'm going to jump in and just say thank you to everybody who is joining us here live this evening on Reality Radio 101. Thank you as well if you are at home or in the car on the way to work or at the office enjoying a downloaded version of the podcast. I'm Matthew Dressing here with my co-host and co-author Joanne Shaw, and you're listening to Down the Garden Path. Joanne and I enjoy hosting Down the Garden Path each week, bringing you interesting and relevant topics to help you achieve a great garden. We learn right along with you from our research and from the wonderful guests like Amy Anthony, who join us here on the show. Don't forget, you can spend more time with us down the garden path. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Down the Garden Path Podcast is our handle there. And you can find us as well as lots of amazing past content on all your favorite podcast providers. And while you're there, please hit that subscribe button to be notified of new content. And don't forget to like, share, and leave us a comment. We love hearing from our many wonderful listeners. You can always write us here or any time of the week at Down the Garden Path Podcast at hotmail.com, or check out our websites. You can find Joanne at www.down2earth.ca, and you can find myself at www.naturalaffinity.ca. So we are talking about lots of aromatherapeutic plants. We've talked about some of Amy's favorites that we can plant and use around the garden. A lot of people we've got some questions coming in about some of more of the essential oil. So why don't we pick up there? Sadie has written in, and I think we kind of touched about this, or you mentioned one, but Sadie's written, hello, Joanne and Matt. Are there essential oils that are actually used in food for flavoring?
Ooh. Yeah.
She's shaking her head and
yeah.
Yes, there are.
So Sadie, great question. This is Amy here. It's the whole flavor and fragrance industry is huge. And I think since I have to fact check this, since at least the mid 1800s, when like chemistry was a big thing and people were really, the global spice trade was really interesting back then. Let's not get into a political conversation here, but flavor and fragrance is huge. And that's why a lot of these aromatic plants are grown for clove oil and mouthwash. Peppermint, huge industry in North America for gum. So the flavor and fragrance industries are huge. And then, like as aromatherapists, we get snobby. We want our oil specifically to be from plants that were harvested and distilled for therapeutic application, versus like mass produced,
right?
In a way. But my gosh, like fennel, clove, the thymes, cedar, Juniperus virginiana. It's the list can go on. And there's a I'm going to get this wrong. There's a regulatory body that's huge, IFRA, the International Fragrance something Association, that sets limits on like the amount you can have in food, the amount of essential oils you can have in skin care topics. I'm sorry, it's not on the top of my head right now.
Yeah. Well, it's good to know that there are regulations that people are, following some guidelines. So that's good to know.
Yes, indeed.
I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah, and Sadie, if Amy didn't, please definitely write in and we can still talk about it. Jim has also written in, hello, Joanne and Matthew. This topic is so interesting. I live in a cool climate most of the year here in Maine. Would I be able to grow all of these plants inside all year round in pots? I am in zone 3. So yeah, I guess, really, Jim, it depends on what plants you have. Amy, do you bring in any of your aromatherapy plants in for the winter to use and harvest?
So I do. That's a great question. And hello, is it Jim in Maine? Yay. I bring my plants into overwinter. Because I do spend time between New York City and Long Island, I'm not there to give the plants full attention. But I know that people can have success with thyme, kind of the shrubby guys of the mint family. So lavender.
Yeah, the woody ones. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, rosemary. And then you could try like the classics like parsley and those guys in pots. But they need that sun. Like a lot of the plants we work with in aromatherapy come from the more equatorial climates up into that temperate zone where we start to get in that umbelliferae family, the lovage root, like I mentioned, fennel. So I think in Maine, you could probably have a long growing season for those guys in the Apiaceae family, or the carrot, parsley, and those guys.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think many of them, with the exception of rosemary, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong though, that things like mint and
Yeah.
parsley, some of those would actually overwinter. They don't necessarily need to be brought in.
Yeah, exactly. There are still a lot of them that will overwinter for us and grow bigger every year, Jim. And then just like Amy had said too, right? Because they come from that equatorial region and they have such large amounts of sun, I think that tends to be the biggest challenge for us growing herbs, especially in cooler climates, is we just never have that intensity or that brightness of light. So then when we do end up growing these herbs, more often than not, they're obviously for food reasons, but they're just so they just come and go. It's very cut and come again, and then you go buy some more kind of thing because they never really last that long because we're just not providing them with those environmental conditions indoors, that length of light, that humidity, the water that they need. So most people end up, they start doing herbs in the fall and into the winter, and then by midwinter, early
Yeah.
spring, when it's cold, it's over
Yeah.
just because of that. So that's your biggest challenge. But yeah, definitely give it a try, Jim, to see what you can bring in for sure. I've done things like the parsley and some basils and some mints, and again, I've got them under grow lights and I grow them for as long as I can. And
yeah, but I do think, Jim, that many will be fine outside.
Definitely.
Rosemary is a huge exception there, but maybe not for zone 3. And the humidity, like I think our dry coming into the house, the other thing is the lack of sun, but also our furnaces are on, our heaters are on, and that makes not the natural state for the plants. They need different growing conditions. So that's where a bit of challenge can come in for sure. For sure. So thank you. That was a good question.
Thank you, Jim.
So if people wanted something aromatic by the front door or something that they walk past and they brush past, Amy, do you have like a favorite one of those?
Well, yes, and I could tell you what's growing currently at our house, which I've had for a few years. So I have the germander, mostly for the bees. I always plant sweet alyssum because the deer don't touch it. I have heliotrope every year I try and someone eats it, but this year they've stayed away. And I did put like deer off, which is that, terrible smelling stuff, but it's pretty natural. It works. So I'm okay with it. So heliotrope I must have. I love that aroma. And then I have bay laurel, which I will go and pluck off a leaf when I'm cooking. I've had rosemary for several years by the front door. And then myrtle is another one that I've asked to live there. Those are just my babies right now.
Yeah.
And I do overwinter. I bring the pots into the garage.
Okay.
So there's so many. I'm thinking about the garden, the whole landscape now, and it's like there are just so many good friends. Winter savory is another one that I always ask to grow, and I've had challenges with winter savory. But it's another exciting aromatic I think we've forgotten how to cook with. I think like oregano is like, I'm taking over, and everyone's like, what happened to winter savory?
Yeah, I could see that. Definitely, right? Yeah, I think everybody, or garlic, like some of the, we've all kind of centered in a few things and not some of the other less known, but more, I don't want to say ancient, but more historical plants. Right?
Yeah. Like lavender. Like there's so many different types of lavender, and lavender could be challenging. And could I give you like unwanted, like everyone just reach out beyond lavender, please. There's so many other friends to meet.
Yes. Well, it's funny. Well, quick, cute little lavender story. So I designed a garden for a really good friend of mine who happens to live across the street, and in her growing, and I put 2 lavender plants in there, and and she loved, she loved the color and they are still blooming. I have a picture of, October. Here it is, October 24th, and they still look amazing. And she's so impressed. But I said, like, are you cutting it? Are you bringing it in the house? She's like, oh no, I can't stand the smell of it. But she thinks it's beautiful, and it certainly she seems to love her growing conditions. So I thought that was funny. But I think it might be that it can be overpowering, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. If I could share about aromatherapy, working with the therapeutic application of essential oils, is if somebody doesn't like the smell of something, and I was sharing lavender is proven to be very helpful for helping sleep. But if you hate it, don't torture the person. If someone told you it's good for that, but you can't stand it, don't beat yourself up. There's other botanicals to work with. And I just mentioned a few of them. So yeah, and that's the thing, is you can have a beautiful plant outside, and mine's still blooming too. I see, I have a nice that second bloom that happens.
Yeah.
I just love having the plants out for themselves and for the pollinators. So you have this gorgeous plant offering itself up, to insects, and there's that relationship happening. That's really beautiful.
Yes, beautiful and so essential.
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't even. Yeah,
I'm the queen of bad puns, so that one wasn't getting past me.
I love
it. It is essential. It is, right? We need the pollinators. We need these, and that's the dance between the aromatics. Is they're beautiful for luring in a lot of insects and
that's
benefiting
true.
the garden.
A lot of them would be, aren't they all pollinators? You offer on, like, so you're a teacher, you're have a consultant, and you have online classes. And how do you, considering it's like us virtually there's no smell-o-vision, so how do you do that? Like, how do you and what are people coming to you to learn?
The way to answer that is I'm just obsessed with this stuff and sharing it. So I've used to teach at a school here in New York that now closed, unfortunately. And I just have this love for sharing this information. So one thing I do and encourage people to do is, and I do this in live classes, go into your supermarket or out in your garden and make yourself a tea. And you could still get that same experience. The plant will still talk with you. You'll still get the messages from the plant, but maybe just not, like hitting you in the face. So my online offerings are more for that, like, hey, I want to know more about essential oils and I want to go a little deeper. I want to learn how to make a cream. I do have a class on like making a herbal maceration or herbal infusion. But I also have writings I do. So I have, like, I call them plant talks on plant profiles on I have one on Monarda. I have to get it back up on my website, but I have one on goldenrod. I have one on laurel, and I do videos to go with that. So like, it's about meeting the plant and geeking out and having an appreciation for it and just immersing yourself in that. So great if you have the essential oil, but it's better, like, could you go find the plant? Can you see it? Could you buy bay laurel leaves from your supermarket? Could you make yourself a gorgeous infusion and just stick your head over that pot and smell the leaves? So you could do this when you're cooking and make a tea. So I kind of, when I answered your question in a roundabout way, but it's like, I just want to get the message out there, and I'm not going to shut up about the plants. And I'm really passionate about, like, hey, goldenrod, how do you grow? What's happening? Let's like geek out about goldenrod and let's learn. So making a tea and harvesting the plants, one of the best ways, I think.
Okay.
Nice. So as you go out and you make a tea, is it literally just as simple as getting near boiling water, putting some clean leaves in, and just letting it distill for 3 to 5 minutes and then enjoying it, type of thing?
Yes, and more.
Okay.
So I highly recommend not even measuring, like a little handful of chamomile flowers. Let's stick with a tablespoon of fresh chamomile flowers if you have that. Okay. And then not even near boiling, very, very warm water, because you don't want those aromatic volatile components to go away.
Right.
And you put a lid on and you let it steep for, the 5 to 7 minutes.
Okay.
But for those delicate things, like lavender can be really obnoxious, but consider a cold infusion. So a lot of people geek out over cold brew coffee.
Yeah.
Please do that for your aromatic herbs, like rose petals and in a like 6-hour cold infusion or overnight on your countertop in the fridge. So cooling in the summer, so soothing. Like you don't have to boil water. You just plan ahead and you sip. And it's just so refreshing. Like cold brew chamomile rose. Oh,
Wow.
I love it in the summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
I love a nice rose tea. It's like one of my favorite things. I absolutely, and there was a brand, I don't even think they exist anymore, but it was absolutely delicious.
Ooh, fun.
So now I'm wondering, as you're talking about making teas, is that something you can find on your website? Do you have tea recipes, or is that maybe a whole new video series slash blog thing you need to be doing?
That's really kind of you. I've done some Instagram like live things, and I do in some articles I bring up tea making. Often in live classes, I will offer tea because it's about connecting. To go back with you, Matthew, like because I saw this on your website. It's like we want to connect with nature. We want to connect with the plant. So how can I really get to know the plant and understand it? And by making a tea is one thing. By the way, I had a blog post article. I have to make sure it's on my website about making tea.
Okay. I'm going to go looking for it.
Well, my website literally was just relaunched today, all sparkly and new and gorgeous.
Ooh.
So I can now put content up again. So I'm going to make sure I have my solstice tea article up.
Oh, that's
Nice.
great.
That
And
sounds
we are
wonderful.
talking tea gardening in a couple of weeks. That's why I'm looking for the book that
Yes.
a friend of ours, and so I'm like, where is that book? I can't find it. Put
Ooh,
my
that's
fingers on it.
cool.
Oh, I did find it. So yeah, so that's kind of an interesting thing that, and I don't think people think about that, of everything we're doing with herbs and cooking with herbs and growing. There's probably a lot of plants that we grow, and even myself included, that you don't end up using really for all its potential. So, yeah.
Can I give a plug for thyme? Thymus vulgaris. So thyme can be super, well, there's all the different varieties or cultivars, right? But if you even have common thyme and you make a tea out of that with just under boiling, you don't want to beat it up too much. So just simmer, take it off the simmer, and then put the fresh thyme sprigs in. It will, I think, surprise most people and how flavorful and wonderful it is. And thyme is super antimicrobial. So if you find it's cold and flu season, and I'm not making medical claims here, I can't, but it could be very beneficial for helping to get the antimicrobial properties into your body. Maybe you combine that with ginger, which is so lovely as a tea. But thyme may surprise you to be a gorgeous tea when prepared again in that more gentle way. Don't beat up your aromatics.
Don't beat them up.
Yeah. Time to explore time, everyone.
That's right. That's right. Yes, your website is gorgeous, by the way. So I think that hopefully our listeners will definitely check out nycaromatica.com. And you have a podcast as well. So yeah. When it comes to so in your consulting, do you you recommend, do you work with people to recommend, if they want alternatives? So I don't want to call it alternative medicine, but is it?
It's okay.
Something that they're interested in and they want to know, much like Steve who wanted to know about sleep. Is that something, do people come to you with a particular issue and they want to try and heal it without drugs, for lack of a better word?
Yeah, so definitely. So when I do one-on-one consultations, I only do them in person. I found that, like you're saying, I wish we had smell-o-vision.
Yes.
Because you need to be with the person to see if they like the oil. Because like I said, I could tell you this is wonderful, this might benefit you, and you're like, I can't stand it. Well, okay, we need to do something else, choose different oils. when I work one-on-one in person, we'll go through it's like a 90-minute session. We'll do a conversation. I'll select oils. We'll talk about your needs, and then I make you a custom product. When I do corporate consulting, I've blended for people for commercial like product lines, and I do like workshops at corporations for wellness and like Aroma 101. What I would encourage people to do, and you mentioned I am part of the Alliance of International Aromatherapists. And there's another place called the National Association for Holistic Aromatherapy. Check out those websites to find local aromatherapists, to find like aromatherapy safety guidelines. There's also, I'm going to get it wrong, the International Federation of Aromatherapists. Am I getting that right? That's based in the UK. But I just want to make it clear, I find myself in this role that education is really important. So the more we empower ourselves and go to places like NAHA.org or the AIA, Alliance of International Aromatherapists, because if you do AIA, it takes you to an architectural website. But there's these great resources out there that are like serving the better interest for the general good about safety, finding an aromatherapist, giving you hints and tips. But then there are people like me that, again, I like to see people in person. But I'm a big proponent, again, NAHA.org, the Alliance Aromatherapists, I believe it is, are great resources. Because there's like, I could go to a Walmart and see oils and I'm like, oh, I wouldn't.
I was just going to say, not all oils are right. They're not all created equal. Like anything else, you get what you pay for, but there should be some thought to that, right?
Exactly. So the more we know, and the more we know there's places like these alliances and organizations, there are people that, because essential oils are not regulated here in the US. I don't think they are in Canada either.
I don't think so either.
So it's the Wild West. And there's safety concerns like about this stuff. And that's could be another conversation. But so my website is great if you want to geek out with plants, Aroma 101, and kind of start geeking out with me. But, for a nice intro and some resources, I definitely check out NAHA and the Alliance of International Aromatherapists.
Excellent. That's great, because I think that is really important to know that. And I love that you are blending them as well, because it's not, even though you mentioned, individual ones, but sometimes it's in the blend, right? It's in the recipe.
Yay. Can I share with you something that I just did this week?
Absolutely.
Like, please don't say no. So I was making split pea soup at a place I volunteer at every Thursday, and I put some clove in. I always put bay and thyme, and I put a little clove. And I was like, Amy, you don't work with clove a lot. So I went home after my volunteer work, and I sat with clove and smelled it, and I had a real connection with it. I was getting it in the gut. It was calming and settling. And then I was like, you must blend with clove, Amy. So to temper it down a little bit and come up with this like kind of confidence, solar plexus supporting blend, because aromatherapy is mind body. It works with the nervous system, and we can work with physical ailments. I blended clove with vetiver. Vetiver's work with in perfumery a lot. It's very cooling. Myrrh, rose, and our friend Palmarosa, Symbopogon martinii. She's related. I always say she and he, related to lemongrass.
Matt totally does the same. It's hilarious.
All the time.
So I made this blend to really support like your confidence and supporting stability in life. And that was done on my knowledge and intuition. But now just smelling it, you're blending. When we blend as an aromatherapist, we're blending to support sleep. We like build a blend versus just going to a single oil. So your neighbor who you designed that beautiful garden, I could put lavender in a blend and she might never know it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And the therapeutic value will be there, but I'm working with this other palette of oils to, to support that sleep or anti-anxiety.
Yeah.
See, I can't
Very
even
cool.
smell the clove in here, but it's just, there's a little kiss of warmth.
Okay.
That's just-
What would be like, I'm going to ask for myself on anti-anxiety. Like, is there something, is that a connection, something that helps you with sleep, but also help with anxiety, or is it?
Yes, a resounding yes. The oils, because of their complex chemistry, they do work with our nervous system and like GABA receptors, dopamine receptors. So lavender could be really calming to the nervous system, a little more sedative. But yes, so like Melissa, we talked about before, lemon balm is kind of proven. There's evidence that shows that Melissa can be incredibly calming and almost a little sedative if taken, no, just a little bit actually could be a little sedative. So essential oils are multivalent. They touch many target points and touch us humans in many ways.
Very cool.
I could go on like the aromatics evolved with insects. So insects and flowers and these aromatic components have evolved over time. And there's really great books. I have a bunch of books here of how these aromatics work on the nervous systems of insects. Right. And then we're much bigger than the insect. So what can paralyze an insect will not paralyze us.
Right.
Yeah. There's some really cool stuff out there.
Okay. So yeah, the professional wise, I mean, people can't really make essential oils themselves, right? But it's going to look for quality, making sure people are checking out quality products.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah. And this is not fair to do this to people, but I remain independent and I never advocate for any brand. But I'm willing to share some brands out there that are, you could go and buy pre-made blends and they have a good reputation. So, but I do make a commitment to being independent and not being brand loyal.
Yeah.
No, but I think that would be great to still have know a few things a few lines that you trust.
Yeah, places that I would not, shirk at, being like, oh, don't go there. So they're a Canadian company, is based in, I think, the West Coast. Aromatics International is someone you could go to, and I believe they are West Coast. Okay. I think I missaid that. New Directions Aromatics is the one I know that's based in Canada. Okay. And they have an array of things because aromatherapists, we work with many things, not just the essential oils, because we'll make a preparation for somebody. So there's two I'll give you, and there's one that's based in France called Cron Arome that you might see in specialty stores. And if you find yourself really interested, your fabulous listeners, go to your health food store. They will have some oils that I would trust. I don't care if I sound snobby. I would trust more than going to Target or Walmart. Or,
Yeah, and maybe some people wouldn't think of the health food store, but that is a great suggestion. Perfect. Is there anything else as we wrap up quickly? Unfortunately, Amy, this has been such a great show, and I hope we can do it again. Is there anything else you would like, or promote your website, or anything else you're doing right now that you would like our listeners to know about?
Oh, thanks for asking. I love doing my plant talk articles and videos, so I love. Go check out nycaromatica.com. You could see me sitting next to my bay laurel plant and reading you a poem. Because that's the way I teach. But yeah, just check out my plant talk articles, check out my online courses. And again, I'm really happy. I'm flattered to be here and spreading awareness for the aromatics.
So thank you very much. This is wonderful. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it as much as Matt and I did. And thank you for joining us down the garden path.
Thank you for listening to Down the Garden Path with your host, Joanne Shaw and Matthew Dressing, right here on Reality Radio 101.